My daughter accidentally sent me a message, and what I read shattered me. She thought she was sending it to her friend. She deleted it immediately, but it was too late. The words were clear, and what had happened to her was far from ordinary. That day ended with me in the hospital. Years of trust, upbringing, and protection vanished in a single moment. In the end, my daughter looked at me as if I were the one at fault. I have been married for some years, but my husband is not the father of my daughter. When I met him, my daughter was 2 years old. He has raised her as if she were his own daughter. I never had any problems with my daughter's biological father, who was also not a humble father, and she had a good relationship with her stepmother. Apparently, my life was going on as normal. My daughter was loved and respected both at home and in her father's school. She studied in a good school, frequented good places, and had good friendships. She'd always trusted all her friends who were school or church classmates. My daughter had 2 or 3 very close friends. At school, it was common for some of them to sleep at each other's house, and I always considered that normal. My mother also let me stay at a friend's house since I was 10 years old, and I always thought that the more we forbade anything, the more they wanted to do it. That's why I never forbade anything to my daughter. Once, my daughter went to sleep over at the house of one of those friends. Initially, the other 2 girls were also going to stay, but for some reason, they backed out, and in the end, it was just my daughter. This friend's mother had recently separated because her husband found out she had been unfaithful, but that's not relevant now. When my daughter came home, she was weird, very different. I have always been very affectionate with hugs and physical contact, but my daughter, who was already reserved, was even more distant. If she approached me, she looked scared. When I tried to hug her, she walked away. I asked her if something had happened, and she always told me it didn't. She went into her room crying. I thought maybe she had a fight with her friend, so I asked her straight away. She denied it. I stood at her room door trying to figure out what had happened. I asked her several times, "Daughter, what happened? Tell me, at least with someone. Someone did something to you." But she insisted it was okay. My husband, whom she called Dad, also tried to talk to her but got the same answer: "I don't want to talk." She spent all day locked in her room crying. I tried to talk to her best friend, but the girl said she didn't know anything, that everything had been fine and that they had just slept. I thought it could be something hormonal and decided to give her space. However, at night she came out of her room wearing a red dress of mine. I asked her what was going on, and she told me she wanted to dress up, so she would only go out in clothes like that and that I should buy her similar clothes. I explained to her that at 12 years old, she was still too young to wear something so flashy and that the red was overdone. I suggested that we would choose together something more appropriate. My daughter went back to her room crying again. Later, she texted me, thinking she was sending it to another friend. When I read it, I found out everything. I was completely shocked. I went to talk to her to tell her we would take action, but she refused, saying she didn't want it because she liked it. Part 2, when I saw the message my daughter mistakenly sent me, before I could read it all, she sent me a written message and then 2 audios. I was finishing listening to the last one when she deleted it for everyone. That's when she realized she had sent it to me. I was so shocked that I felt bad, starting to get dizzy. I never imagined that my daughter would go through that situation and that she would never tell me. In fact, I began to question what kind of mother I was because I always thought that if something happened to her, she would trust me and tell me. I went to her room but I didn't come screaming. I went to talk to try to understand. I told her, "Daughter, I'm sorry you went through this, but let's fix it." As soon as I said that, she said, "Get out of my room. I don't want solutions. Nothing, you get into everything, but in my life, you are not going to interfere." I didn't understand why she treated me so aggressively. She started saying that I was a heavy woman who meddled too much in her life, that my care was too much. She started shouting to get me out of her room. At that moment, my husband appeared and asked what was going on, asking her not to talk to me like that. She called out, "Dad, don't bother me too." Then my husband turned to me and said, "What happened? Tell me about it." I started to explain what I had seen in her message. She told her best friend that when she went to sleep at this girl's house, her friend's mother was dating the geography teacher at the school. That teacher was there that night. At one point, he and my daughter were left alone in the kitchen. It was then that the teacher stroked her back and told her she was very pretty, that she had already. He stroked her hair and told her that if she wore more sensual clothes, she would be even more beautiful. He even told her that if she was interested, he could call him and that he would be available to see her whenever she wanted. I was horrified by all that. I couldn't believe a teacher did something so disgusting. I found it inappropriate that he was dating the friend's mother, but this exceeded all boundaries. Since I am known for not remaining silent, I decided that I would take action. My husband was also outraged and agreed that this was unacceptable. We talked to our daughter, explaining that we were going to solve the situation. We decided to go to the school to confront the teacher before taking any other action because the police station could prevent us from acting directly. The next day, my daughter went to school as usual, and after about 2 hours, we went there. On the way, my husband found a piece of cable and wrapped it in his hand, determined not to let that go unpunished. When we arrived at the school, we were able to talk to the teacher and principal, and they took us to a room where we would wait for him.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the story, like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you don't miss out. Share your thoughts in the comments. and spread the word to your friends. Stay awesome and see you in the next video.